Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This evening I'm going to be doing another movie review. This movie is a horror comedy from the UK, English language, released in the year 2017, directed by Dominic Brunt, and this film is called Attack of the Adult Babies. So Attack of the Adult Babies starts off with a family. You've got a mother, father, and a teenage son and daughter. They appear to be normal enough. They're a little bit dysfunctional, but their lives are going to be changed forever when their home is invaded by two Russian gangsters. Now these Russian gangsters need the family for something, and that something is involved with a upper class society that reside in this mansion in the rural countryside. And so the Russian gangsters tell the mother and the teenage son and daughter that they have to go to this countryside mansion. They have to get inside and steal something for them. And if they don't do it within a certain time period, they're going to execute the father. So the mother and the teenage son and daughter are left with no other option. So they go to the countryside, to this mansion. They don't know what's inside and what's waiting for them, but they know that they have to do it if they are to save their loved one. So when they get inside, they realise that getting what they need to get is the least of their problems, because there is a danger that is present that is far more bizarre than anyone could ever have imagined. So what that bizarre threat is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Attack of the Adult Babies. Coming into this movie, you really have to have your expectations at a very, very low level. Now, a movie of this title, you know that it's going to be a really silly film, and so if you go into it expecting a movie that's going to challenge you, then the joke's on you. And so Attack of the Adult Babies, it doesn't promise anything that's going to be serious, so you really have to let your hair down and have a little bit of fun with it. And so that's what I was prepared to do. Now, as far as horror comedies are concerned, no one does it better than the British. Is that British humour really, it translates very well for me, is that it's very similar to Australian humour, so I really like British horror comedies, and that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to see this film. And the other reason is that Dominic Brunt is a very talented director. Now, he's a low-budget independent horror director. He directed a movie called Before Dawn, which is a zombie film, but a very different zombie film. It had its problems, but I thought as though it was very thought-provoking. And so for the budget that he had for that film, I thought it was really, really impressive. And so coming in to a completely different type of film, I was wondering, okay, well, maybe this is going to be a little bit more than what I was expecting. And so those were, I wouldn't say it's expectation, that was the hope I had for this film. I didn't really expect it to be good, but I was hoping that, okay, a director of this caliber, maybe he was going to spin into it and make it a little bit more memorable than I was expecting it to be. But unfortunately, I just thought as though this is an extremely disappointing experience. Now, this is a director who is capable of so much more. Everything that he does very well in Before Dawn is completely forgotten in this movie, and I believe that it's an example of a director who's just banking on the fact that he is fairly well known in the low budget independent horror scene, and he's going to sell this film based on the fact that he's a director. And because if you go into it expecting a Dominic Brunt experience, then you're going to be bitterly disappointed. I just felt as though he was going through the motions with this movie and wasn't really trying that hard. And so yes, you can say that it is Attack of the Adult Babies, but I believe that was a little bit of an excuse. Maybe playing it a little bit safe for being a very lazy film, is because if anyone criticises it, maybe he can turn around and say, well, what did you expect? It's this type of movie. But for me, I just thought as though it was a step down from what he's capable of. And making these styles of films, I think it's a get out of jail free card, is because, all right, you didn't do this well, you didn't do that well. But no, look at the title. You know, obviously, you're taking yourself too seriously. But I just felt as though this movie was just going through the motions. It's the same problem that this film has that The Human Centipede had, is that it was trying too hard to shock the audience, but it's shocking the audience through really cheap visuals. And because it doesn't have anything else going for it, after a while you become desensitized to that gimmick and you want a little bit more, but it never comes. And so it does outstay its welcome. It does become very, very stale. And it only goes for about 90 odd minutes, but it feels as though it went for 3 hours. And that's ultimately a problem. It's because it's got no content, because it's banking on just trying to gross out the audience in a very juvenile way. And so that added to the extra disappointment, because I know that Dominic Brunt is capable of so much more. Now, as far as cinematography is concerned, it is fairly well shot. It's a low-budget film, but typical Dominic Brunt, he actually makes it look a little bit more than it is. And I thought that the practical gore effects in this movie were very extreme, were actually quite well done. And so for that, I can applaud him. And I thought as though there were some chuckle moments, but that's unfortunately, as far as a horror comedy is concerned, I've said it time and time again in the past, if you're going to do a horror comedy, you have to have a fine blend with humour and horror. And no one understands that blend better than Britain. But unfortunately, as far as this movie is concerned, it just wasn't funny enough and it wasn't scary whatsoever. So when you fail on both levels, as far as a horror comedy is concerned, I just felt as though it completely missed. It missed any satisfactory level. Therefore, it just becomes a film that I thought was a complete waste of time. And so this is a movie that's trying to give you that what the middle class and lower class perceive the upper class, and I thought that was kind of smart. But it's not enough to really prevent this movie from completely sinking. I just thought as though it was really, really silly, which once again is what you see is what you get with a title like this. But I believe that Dominic Brunt was kind of hiding behind that title to prevent him from receiving criticism, because it's supposed to be a silly film. But I just thought as though he was going through the motions and it wasn't trying as hard as I really think he could have. And that is the reason why I come away from this movie just really, really disappointed. Now, if you would go into the movie expecting a really silly time, maybe you'll get something out of it more than I did. But as far as I'm concerned, I thought it was very, very boring. Yes, it is very silly and wacky. It's really, really insane. But after 5 or 10 minutes of actually getting yourself into the insane material, you're left wanting more. And because nothing more comes to satisfy that need and to quench your thirst for something with a little bit more content, it just becomes a movie that just meanders out and it outstays its welcome. And you're probably going to be glad when the end credits arrive. So overall, really disappointed with this movie. Not recommended. I'm only going to give Attack of the Adult Babies 1 star. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.